We need to have a commander-in-chief who is tough on Russia, tough on Putin. Look, he spent most of his press conference, we were there live, crapping on the United States and very clearly taking shots at Biden, which the leftist media took as compliments. Look, when he says he's an experienced statesman, when Putin says that about former Vice President Joe Biden, he's calling him a swamp creature. Because this is what you have to have historical context. He complimented Donald Trump, remember? By saying he's a businessman and he approaches it from a business sense. So this is good. This is refreshing. They go, what do you think about Biden? He is experienced. As a matter of fact, all he ever has done is D.C. So, no, that's great. That's great. No. It's impressive.
Yes, I've killed people, but your president is a scumbag.
Yes,
it's fine.
I've killed people, Anderson, who could fit you in their back pocket.
Yes.
So here is a montage, just so you can see the highlights from Vladimir Putin dumping on the U.S. and showing his respect for former Vice President Biden.
Everything that happens in our countries, one way or another, is the responsibility of the leaders themselves. Look at the streets of America. Every single day there are shootings and killings, and on human rights. Listen to me.
He's a jerk, but he's not wrong.
What about Guantanamo? It's still working.
You didn't answer my question, sir. If all of your political opponents are dead, in prison, poisoned, doesn't that send a message that you do not want a fair political fight?
People rioted and went into the Congress in the US with political demands. And many people were declared as criminals, and they are threatened with imprisonment from 20 to 25 years. We sympathize with what was happening in the States, but we do not wish that to happen in Russia. Tell us, what did you see when you looked at him in the eyes? As far as looking in eyes and finding souls are concerned, well, I actually don't remember that. He talked about his family.
Yes, you got no soul. He has no soul.
Yeah.
Doll's eyes.
And what his mother told him. They are important things. Maybe they're not quite relevant.
He was breastfed until last year.
Certainly doesn't imply that we must look into each other's eyes and find a soul or swear eternal friendship.
Wow, dude.
I'm not saying that I found a soul in former Vice President Joe Biden, but I'm really not saying that I did. Here's the issue. There's a long track record with former Vice President Joe Biden under the Obama administration, who some would argue is still pulling the strings in a lot of ways, if not Kamala Harris, where they claimed they would be tough on Russia, and then they weren't. And then there are plenty of examples where they claimed they were going to be tough on Russia, and then said, "Hey, the '80s called. They want their Cold War policy back to Mitt Romney." So it was very inconsistent. With Donald Trump, you do have to acknowledge that he was consistently unpredictable. Look, someone who's unpredictable keeps you on your toes. Well, you know that's what happened.
Yeah. So here's the juxtaposition, right? You have somebody saying, Assad, there's a red line, and if you cross it, it's a red line. He goes, well, okay, I'll cross it, crosses it, and then nothing happens. And then you have a guy like Donald Trump understanding that negotiation sometimes means you can't just say whatever you want, but then you can be tough in your policy.
Well, a perfect example of this tangibly, when we're talking something that can be quantified because we're talking about policy. What do you think Putin thinks when he just said Joe Biden, former Vice President Joe Biden, got to make sure I get that right. He just said, we're saying that America's back. Okay, well, you shut down the Keystone pipeline here, but then you waived sanctions against Russia's Nord Stream 2.
Yeah.
Their own pipeline in Germany.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, I think we should keep our eyes on both of them.
Agree?
It's time for, with all this context, This Week in Biden.
If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
Okay, so a few things that Biden got wrong here when he was talking at his press conference. Biden began by saying out loud that he was given a list of reporters to call on. He said this. Here you go.
Okay.
I'll take your questions, and as usual, folks, they gave me a list of the people I'm going to call on. So, Jonathan, Associated Press.
Okay.
Wow.
So comparing this, again, where we're talking about...
You don't say the quiet parts out loud, bro.
That's all he does.
As a position of strength. Now, here's the issue you would have with Donald Trump. If Donald Trump had been given a list of reporters to call on and they asked him about it, he would say, no, it's my list.
Yeah.
Former Vice President Joe Biden also confused Putin with President Trump.
I caught part of President Putin's press conference, and he talked about the need for us to be able to have some kind of modus operandi where we dealt with making sure the Arctic was, in fact, a free zone.
I mean, it makes sense because he checks under his bed for both.
He's so boring. They put him on C-SPAN 3.
And I think now they're just so complacent. They are so comfortable with the media carrying their water that Joe Biden doesn't realize that even the media is going to have to backtrack now and address the lie that he spouts on January 6th and saying that the rioters killed an officer, which we know is not true.
When President Putin was questioned today about human rights, he said the reason why he's cracking down on opposition leaders is because he doesn't want something like January 6th to happen in Russia. And he also said he doesn't want to see groups formed like Black Lives Matter. What's your response to that, please?
My response is kind of what I communicated, but I think that's a ridiculous comparison. It's one thing for literally criminals to break through cordon, go into the Capitol, kill a police officer, and be held unaccountable.
You are fake
news. It is
news.
for people objecting and marching on the Capitol and saying, you are not allowing me to speak freely. You are not allowing me to do A, B, C, or D. And so they're very different criteria.
Okay, this is something. If people were to want, if the left were to want a civil war, which God forbid ever happens in this country, this is how you do it. This is how you do it. What you do is tell Americans that what they are seeing, what they are experiencing, at least $2 billion in damages. It's been a year since they've upped the number, since they've updated it. Probably $4 billion when we're talking about the Black Lives Matter riots. Cities burning, dozens of deaths, hundreds of officer casualties, city halls, Walgreens, police precincts being burned, right in front of their eyes, people being shot in autonomous zones that were erected in a complete state of lawlessness, and you say all they were doing was saying that they weren't allowed to speak, as opposed to January 6th, and then you lie and say where someone killed an officer. If you want, this is sort of exactly, if you look at the playbook of people who want to create civil unrest, division within their country. They used to accuse Donald Trump of this.
Yeah.
What you do is tell people that exactly what they're seeing and experiencing isn't so.
But now Vladimir Putin just said, I watched CNN today. They said there was an insurrection. I don't want that here. And so that's why I have a guy in prison. And that's why I'm just... Is that not the story? That's the story of the entire conference for me.
Right.
He's justifying it because you guys are overplaying your hand and saying, oh, it was an insurrection. But burning down the damn courthouse in Seattle over and over and over again isn't.
Yeah, that's
How
totally
is that
fine.
possible?
Here's the next quote where I thought, because we didn't watch all of this live, I thought this was a fake headline. I thought it was like the Babylon Bee. You know, my antenna always go up. I mostly read liberal sources because I want to be informed as to what the other side is saying. So when I read something that seems so mind-numbingly stupid, I say, well, no sitting member of office of our higher halls would say something like that. No, he actually did. So former Vice President Joe Biden, he actually laid out critical parts of infrastructure that were off limits. I think he gave a number later on. I think he said like 16. 16 items. I told Putin that these 16 items are off limits.
I made a list.
I'm going, no president would make a list of 16 implying that everything other than the 16 is not off limits.
Yeah. Dude.
A sitting president wouldn't do that, right? Was sitting, former vice president.
Former vice president.
Believe your lying eyes and ears.
I talked about the proposition that certain critical infrastructure should be off limits to attack, period. By cyber or any other means. I gave them a list. If I'm not mistaken, I don't have it in front of me, 16 specific entities.
And I feel like Putin's sitting over there like this. He's like,
take some notes here.
Okay, so Bob Evans between 4 and 6.
Okay.
Got it. All right. Joe Biden gets really upset about something that should be a compliment in this next clip.
Yeah.
So the person is trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, going like, so you're, and he's like, I didn't say that. I didn't say I was confident. What?
Why are you so confident he'll change his behavior, Mr. President?
Yeah, I'm not confident in changing behavior. What do you do?
I'm never confident.
When did I say I was confident? I said.
What's so indignant about it?
Let's get it straight. I said what will change their behavior is if the rest of the world reacts to them and it diminishes their standing in the world. I'm not confident of anything.
We are aware.
Hey, well, don't insinuate capability.
Every response he has reminds me of that, like a diabetes commercial where it's like, if I don't take my insulin, I get real short with my family.
Watch Louder with Crowder live, Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern.